Hi everybody, this is Howard VE2AED, and I'm going to remove the front panel of a Kenwood TS-990. I've had it since around April, and about 2 months ago it developed an intermittent in the multi/channel control, and I'll try to show you that. What happens is, as you turn the control clockwise, it's supposed to increment in frequency, but as you see, it's actually just erratic, and it goes backwards and forwards and going in reverse, going down frequency. Seems to be basically okay, but as you go up, it slips a lot, and so the carbon encoder wheel in this multi-channel control seems to be defective. So I've gotten a hold of a new control. Kenwood sent me one, and I offered to try to fix this before giving up and sending a, I think, 58-pound radio back to Kenwood in California from eastern Canada. I'm located northwest of Montreal. So I'll show you how we take apart the whole radio, and hopefully I'll be able to make this switch of controls by myself. So the first thing that we're going to do, of course, is to remove the top and bottom panels, and I'm just going to start unscrewing everything on top and bottom here and get the panels off. I should then expose myself to the screws along the side that hold the front panel in, and the object is to figure out how to get that panel to tilt down and get to this this multi-channel encoder. So now I've gotten all the screws off from the sides, the top cover, and now we're going to lift the top cover very carefully in case anything's attached. And no, it was very simple to remove. And now we could, of course, see the way the whole unit is set up here. And I just took a glance through to the back of the unit, and I think changing that encoder is going to be simple because it appears to be on a 1-inch square circuit board, and I can't it's not obvious that it's held on by 2 screws or whatever, but I'll probably get to that in a few minutes and I'll understand more clearly how to change it. Anyway, back to work. The next thing I'm going to do is remove this screw on either side. As you'll see, there are 2 screws on the front panel on the left and right sides. This one, it looks like you would just loosen it a little, probably about that much. And this one, it looks like, has got to be removed, and I think what will happen then is the whole front panel will just hinge down. So I'll be doing that now, and I'll be removing the screw on the other side as well and loosening the bottom screw, and then we'll go to the next step. So far we're doing very well, and it's obvious that by having removed those 2 top screws and just loosening the bottom ones, the panel, notice I've got the radio oriented so that it's hanging off the edge of the table, and this allows me to now lower down the front panel. And I probably think I should tighten these screws slightly on the sides just to give me a little bit of support here. I don't want the panel to be too loose, just in case. And now, as you can see, we're looking at the complete radio opened up on the bench with the front panel just sitting there. So the next step will be to figure out how to get to that encoder, because it is screwed in from the front, but the nut is literally behind the plastic front. Okay, so now in order to get out this defective encoder, which is actually located right here, you see I've removed the header, I've pulled it off. And now what has to happen is these are all black machine screws holding this main circuit board on. And every one of these black screws has to come off. Of course, at another point in this procedure, I'm going to be undoing all of these flexible printed circuits, FPCs, right here, because I've got to lift this board off. And then I expect to see, according to the service manual, I've got to see locate 2 screws which will actually remove a steel panel where these 3 controls will all lift up. Then I'll be loosening the screw over here. So the plastic front panel does not have to come off from what I'm understanding now. So the next challenge will be to remove all of those flexible printed circuit boards, FPCs. You might call them ribbon cables, but they're actually FPCs. And I'm just going to unhook the short ones and see if I can move the board aside and get to the screws to allow me to remove the panel with those 3 controls right over here. All 3 will have to come off because according to the service manual they're all located on one steel plate. The rest should be a cinch after that. So I've removed, basically I've unplugged 9 connectors here. As you could see, they're just loose, and the screws are out on the board, and things are starting to look really good. You've got to understand how to pull these out. If you want to pull out from the black connectors, you just pull straight out, but you've got to do it very carefully. A pair of good quality, smooth, not serrated needle nose will take this out. We'll take this connector right out. Well, not this one, but these connectors, if you want to pull out here. However, the connectors that have these 2 little tabs, the tabs have to be pulled up with both fingers, and when they're lifted, this is called a zero insertion force socket. I don't know if I can get in there with the camera. I wish I had a cameraman. And that ZIF has to be, the tab has to be lifted up on it. And then when it's lifted up, this connector will just undo. So I've done 9 of them, and now my board is showing some great progress. As you can see, I can lift it, and I've gotten into the control area where I've got to be, and I'm pretty happy about that. So now I'm going to be removing this black screw and this black screw over here, and then this whole assembly with these 3 controls will come off, and I'll be unscrewing this control, which is the defective one, and putting a new one in. And of course, before I do that, I'll solder the new control onto this circuit board. So hopefully I've given enough of a demonstration or explanation here for anybody else to do this. Just to recap, I took all the black screws out, undid about 8 ZIF, zero insertion force sockets, and pulled off the FPCs. Then I actually went a step further, so you're not going to see this procedure, but I already did lift the main board, and I was able to pull out the 3 controls, which are all on one sub-assembly, just to get to that defective multi-channel control. But I left the control in there so I could at least show you how it comes out. So here's the board, and we're going to lift this board out. Okay, and now that the board's out, this is the assembly, and I've undone 1 black screw on this end of a steel plate and 1 here, and now the whole assembly just comes right out. And that's the defective control. That's the multi-channel control. So I'm not going to go into detail about soldering, because hopefully anybody that does this knows how to solder, but I'm now going to take this over to my other workshop. This is really the ham shack, at least one of them, here at VE2AED. And I'm going to unscrew this little nut that I needed to get to, and remove this board and solder in the new control, which is here in this bag. So that's the story, and I'll be back shortly. So here's the new pot. No, well, it's not a pot actually, it's a carbon encoder, actually made by Alps, very good company that I've had a lot of good experience with. Anyway, this is the encoder soldered back onto the board, mounted with the screw on the steel plate. And now, of course, I'm going to just put everything back together, and that should take just a few minutes, I guess, and I should be back on the air. Well, as you can see, everything's back to normal, and turning the multi-channel either way, the control works just perfectly, flawless. So that was a lot of fun, and just want to say, who said ham radio isn't a hobby any longer? As you could see, it's still as technical as you want it to be. Just dig in and learn things. 7-3. See you later.